The other really awesome game this week, Baltimore Ravens at the Indianapolis Colts.
Another game brought to you by COVID.
What do we have COVID-wise?
So, Marlon Humphrey tested positive from the tests of the morning of the game. So, played last week with COVID. Passed the test on Saturday, failed the test on Sunday, which they don't get the results of until after the game. So, he gets shut down on the COVID list. And then a bunch of close contacts because game day, traveling, all that kind of stuff. So, Matthew Judon, Patrick Queen, Deshaun Elliott, LJ Fort, Malik Harrison, Bonds, Tyus Bowser, all can't practice this week because they've been deemed close contacts. But they could play if they're cleared.
They're likely back
from the COVID test before the game, right? So, assuming none of them actually develop COVID, they will play in this game. They just want to practice all week.
How do you think that affects things?
I mean, it can't be helpful, right?
Depth is really tested for Baltimore's defense there.
Yeah. I mean, it can't be useful to have half your defense not able to practice this week. But playing, I think, is the bigger part of this. If they're all able to play, Marlon Humphrey is a big loss, not just because he's a really good player, but because they ask him to do the stuff in that secondary that they basically don't trust anybody else to be able to do. You know, when designated guys go down, it's Marlon Humphrey that has to pick up the slack and play in the slot or take weird coverage assignments. If he's not there, I think that presents a bigger hole to the defense than just the absence of a really good player.
Yeah, if Humphrey's not there, that is massive, because I think a big part of this game every single week for the Colts is, what are you going to get from Phillip Rivers?
Yeah.
And are you going to get the ridiculous decision-making that shows up every now and again? Or you're going to get efficient Phillip Rivers, which has showed up a lot this season, where it's like, you know what, I'll dink and dunk and I'll take a few shots, and you know he's still fairly accurate. It's just when he starts to throw ducks into coverage, where there are issues for the Colts. And I'll lean back on the indoor-outdoor thing. They're in Indianapolis. He's been less likely to play like that at home, but Baltimore creates as much they in quarterbacks as any team. You don't know where the blitz is coming from. You don't know where, their twists and stunts and all that stuff. They are equipped to force Rivers into one or two of those decisions in this game.
Yeah, Rivers, though, his mistakes this season have been more of the unforced error variety than they have of the confused, indecision and coverage issue. It's like he's, whatever he is, what did we say, 38 years old now?
Our age.
Yeah. Like at 38,
with twice as many kids as me.
He's not. Yeah, that's an achievement. He's he's not struggling to diagnose coverages, right? He's seen it all. He understands what he's looking at. You're not going to confuse Phillip Rivers to the point where he sort of panics and heaves the ball to the wrong place. But you can basically leave him to confuse himself, just in terms of like, where am I going? All right, late to the flat. Oops. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like I think when you reach that age, it's very hard to understand that you don't have the arm anymore, Steve. You can't throw your fastball anymore. It's gone. It's not there anymore, and you're never going to get it back.
Yeah, I'm aware.
And it's hard to accept that late in life. So I think Rivers has just reached that point where in his brain he can still make those throws, and he doesn't realize until the ball's already in the air. Like the muscle memory is just a little bit faster than his brain at this point. So he puts the ball in the air and then only realizes when it's on its way to the cornerback that that's a throw I can't make anymore.
It is the saddest thing. I mean, because I don't play baseball anymore, so I can't relate to that part. But, when we played pickup hoops, and my brain was saying, make this quick move and drop your jump hook in there. And then you're like, man, I'm moving in slow motion here.
It's not there anymore. It sucks.
But so the unforced errors you're talking about from Rivers, though, it's phantom pressure. That was the issue in the Browns game a few weeks back. He felt pressure that wasn't necessarily there. Nobody's going to create that other than the Steelers, maybe as much as the Ravens, create that phantom pressure. So Rivers has to be good over and over and over again. We talked about Josh Allen make decision after decision after decision. I think that's what comes down to Rivers. And I'm going to use the same analysis on what the Colts are going to do to Lamar. The Colts they play very little man coverage. It's a lot of zone. It's a lot of make a lot of decisions. 10-play drives was what they're trying to make offenses have to move the ball on them, right? Not keep the ball in front, not allow a lot of big plays. And Lamar Jackson's decision making has been poor in recent weeks. His blind spot for linebackers the last couple weeks. It's one of those things that showed up in college quite a bit. If he was going to have a turnover-worthy play, a lot of times it was like, there's a middle linebacker there. Whoops. That's what we saw last week against the Steelers a couple times. So Lamar has to make decision after decision against a very safe Colts defense that's playing really well right now.
He does. And the whole Ravens offense is kind of in it's in a key part of the season for them. You know, people are asking what's wrong with the Ravens offense, and they've still been doing pretty well. Like, it's not like the run game has disappeared and everything is a disaster, but it is noticeably right. But it is noticeably less effective than it was a season ago. And Lamar Jackson is noticeably less effective than he was a season ago. And I think all of the things that are wrong are affecting each other. It's not; they're all sort of force multipliers, right? The lack of a Marshall Yanda and the fact that his replacement is nowhere near a Hall of Fame caliber level, the injury that Lamar has been dealing with, the fact that the windows are tighter, all of these things rolled up together are sort of making every other aspect of it slightly worse. And I think teams are starting to revert back to the old Miami Dolphins game plan heading into last year, which didn't work, right? Oh, well, we don't trust you. We don't think you're a good enough passer, so we're just going to load up against this run offense and dare you to pass over the top. And he was like, okay, 5 touchdowns later. Whoa, we can't do that this year. That's a bad plan. This year, though, I think teams are starting to edge back towards that style of game plan because all the reasons that meant he could just air it out 5 touchdowns later are not quite where they were a season ago.
I'll be keeping an eye on Darius Leonard, middle of that Colts defense. What a monster game he had last week. We mentioned it on the review show, playing the run, blitzing, strip sack, making plays in coverage. Linebackers against this Ravens offense always have such a challenge, right? You have to be you have to be able to shed blocks at the second level in the run game. You have to be able to take on linemen or beat linemen to the spot in the run game. And then the play action game puts you on a string, maybe more than any other play action game just because of Lamar as a rushing threat. So Darius Leonard, a huge factor in this game. Number 4 graded linebacker. Number 3, if you set the filters properly, which we will for Darius. He's the 3rd best linebacker in the league this year. Okay? Friend of the show, Darius. And on pace to be a part of the 101. We'll get him back on the show when he is.
What's interesting is Lamar Jackson's PFF grade on essentially tight window throws is the same this year from where it was a year ago. The difference is the wide the hell open windows are not as frequent and as open as they were last season.
Good analysis, Sam.
So this is what I was saying, right? All the things affecting everything else. Like we talked all the time about how Lamar's threat as a runner and his ability in the run game and how dominant that run game was is what made his own life easier as a passer because it opened up all the space for these throws. It isn't this year. And whether that's because teams are shutting down the run easier or whether because they're crowding all those spaces, teams have started to figure out this offense in a way they couldn't a season ago. Now, you can definitely say, in addition to that, the personnel isn't where it was a season ago, and that's helping them figure it out. But there's a genuine sense that this offense is not quite as unstoppable as it was last season.
I also want to look at on those open throws, what's he throwing from an uncatchable standpoint this year versus last year? If I could find his name right now.
Yeah, I don't know that.
It's not that big of a difference. If anything, right? So the difference in his accuracy, we thought he might regress a little bit accuracy-wise. When I think your analysis is correct, he's played throw for throw. There are some similarities to last year. But he's got fewer opportunities.
Right.
So yes, that would be a sign of adjustment from the NFL to Lamar so far this season.
Yeah, but the question is whether the adjustment is teams essentially identifying the code to crack this offense, or whether it's just that the code is easier now because the personnel isn't as good.
They don't have tight ends.
Right.
They don't have the same type
They
of...
don't have the same tight ends. They don't have the
weapons.
interior offensive line. The run game isn't as potent because of that. Lamar hasn't been as potent on the ground because of the injury and all those other things. Like that's the question essentially is, did teams crack the code or did the code get easier? It's like, remember Beverly Hills Cop, Steve?
Yeah.
Beverly Hills Cop 2? Whichever one it is, where they have the code, the alphabet bandit. The alphabet bandit. And eventually Eddie Murphy in the car cracks the code because he made it really easy. Not because Eddie Murphy beat the computer guys, but because the code was really easy.
Eddie Murphy, NFL defensive coordinator.
There you go.
Who do you like in this Ravens-Colts matchup?
I still think I like the Ravens.
Yeah, I'm going to lean Ravens here too.
Even if they don't have any players because of COVID.
Even if they don't, I think they'll all play. They'll come back and play. So they're making it a point to get back on the field on Sunday, despite what happens in the week. For the most part, guys are making it there. Thursday games are tough, as Packers and Niners are. But yeah, I'll take Baltimore in this one. Favored by 2.5 at Indy.
Thanks for watching the PFF YouTube channel. And if you want to subscribe, all you have to do is push the button. Don't forget everything you get. A little fantasy, push the button. A little green line for the gambling aspects of the game, push the button. College football, push the button. The YouTube channel from PFF.